Are you a man of faith who is utterly and totally confused by your wife's outbursts, her withdrawals, and even her attacks? In today's session, we're going to talk about the law of courage and how you, in your authority, can create the environment your wife needs to feel supported, loved, and to heal from trauma. Are you ready to stop fighting and start loving again? What if I told you that the key to healing your broken relationship can be found at the intersection of law and love? I'm Judge Char, founder of Law for Love, and I restore justice to broken relationships through contract building, restructuring, and legal consulting that helps you convert conflict into connection that transforms your family, your community, and the world. Welcome, welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's lesson. And I am going to dive right into the material, but I am going to make sure to take the time to connect for any questions you might have or any discussion you might have at the end. Because tonight we're talking to husbands, and I am committed to encouraging you, equipping you, and empowering you with legal insights because marriage is a journey and it's a battle, and the person you don't want to battle is the one that you married. So prayerfully you are encouraged at the end of this and you are equipped with some insights and some tools that you could begin using today to begin to make the difference in your marriage if you relate to what I'm about to describe here in our case study and in my testimony. So, in my world as a former divorce attorney, I would often encounter very frustrated husbands who would, many of them would have these types of concerns and complaints about their wives. The smallest things trigger her into rage. She's unexplainably angry, and it seems as though she's angry all the time. Many men who have found themselves sitting across the desk from a divorce attorney have described their wives as controlling and unyielding, unwilling to follow his lead. And one other place that I saw so many times in the divorce world is the argumentative place of not being able to hear you as her husband. You try to talk to her and she argues with you. She doesn't see that you're trying to help her. And I've said this to so many of my clients, particularly my male clients. Very often, I would say 95% of the time, when working with men in this space, in the marriage space, men often, you're spot on when you see like what's going on with your wife, how easy it could be to just simply address her need and fix it, right? 95% of the time when I've seen a husband's analysis of what would help his wife, 95% of the times husbands have been very, very correct or very, very close to the answer that would relieve his wife of stress, of pain. And oftentimes, in trying to speak to your wife, she's not hearing that you're trying to help her. She's hearing something completely different, and all you get back from her is an argument. But I want you to be encouraged because you don't have to wait for her to storm off and leave or threaten divorce or find her another man or just completely abandon you in the bedroom. Because what I'm going to share with you tonight about your legal authority as husband and the law of courage is very practical wisdom that you can begin to exercise. It's very simple, but it's not easy. So buckle your seatbelt because I'm going to take you on a ride. Now, authority is a power packed word. In fact, this isn't even all of the definitions that I was able to copy out of dictionary.com, but I maintained most of the ones that were relevant to the way that I look at authority as a person, as a juris doctor, right? As a person who's trained in the law, as a person who has practiced law, as a person who now teaches law and adjudicates disputes. These are the definitions that resonate the most with me from my perspective as a legal analyst. And so the ones that I really, really want to kind of hone in on here when I'm talking to you, husband, about your authority. Number 3, a person or body of persons in whom authority is vested as a governmental agency. So whenever I talk about the Most High being king, whenever I talk about him being the highest authority, the highest force in all creation, the creator of heaven and earth, he vested in you as husband a power as his agent of governmental authority. I want to impress this upon you because I'm about to put some pressure on you when it comes to this, and I'm going to explain to you why, but it's to equip you in an understanding of the power that you're packing and not always using why so many families have fallen prey to divorce. I also want to bring your attention to number 4. Usually, authorities or persons having the legal power to make and enforce the law, or in other words, a government. So let's take a closer look at this authority from the beginning with respect to what the Bible is saying about authority, because husband was given authority to enforce the Most High's intention or his law or his government concerning the wife. Now, there's a lot of conversation going on out here in social media about the biblical teachings of submission. First of all, that word is very mayonnaise to me, the word submit. I look forward to talking about that in some later conversations. We're actually going to have our guest, Brother Muhammad, come back. He and we're reading a book together that we're going to discuss, and we're going to do a little back and forth on from different perspectives. But submit is a mayonnaise word, and anybody who knows me knows that I hate mayonnaise. Anybody who knows me knows that like just the thought of mayonnaise gets me upset. And submit is not the term used in the original Hebrew concerning this relationship between men and women that is often taught to cause women to believe or to feel or to position ourselves in a lower status or a below status to our husbands. The word that is used is dominion. It is governor. It is authority or jurisdiction when you follow it through. And this is what was done in the garden when man was given jurisdiction of his wife. Because what men have been taught, especially through religious institutions, is that your authority or your final word or your last say or your veto power is just based on the fact that you are male. But this is only a prerequisite to the jurisdictional authority that was granted in the scriptures. And understanding this is key when you want to operate in your power to support, help, and heal your wife who has a traumatic past that she's still walking through. So that aspect of authority, I'm the man, so I get the last say, so you have to submit to me. This this is very, very limited and has a lot to do with power struggles that are taking place in failed marriages. I remember speaking to one husband in the middle of a divorce who he cried to me. He was like, man, none of this would have happened if she would have just submitted to me. He just wanted his wife to submit. And his understanding of submission was that, look, I'm bigger, I'm stronger. If it was a disagreement between two men, whoever was the one who could win the fight would be the one to get the last word. And that was his rationale. But when you took a closer inspection of the relationship, all of the responsibility of the house, the wife was carrying. She was carrying an uneven burden of the family responsibility, of the household responsibility, of the financial responsibility, of the stability responsibility, while he's sitting over demanding for her to submit to him, but she was paying the cost for all of the responsibility. And so because he had a limited an erroneous understanding of what his authority was, I'm the man, so you need to listen to me. His house fell because he did not understand what I'm sharing with you about authority tonight. Give me just 1 second. And so that's why I had to go pull up our friend Spidey, because this authority that is granted in the biblical scriptures is an authority that gives you power as husband. And what does Spider-Man, what do we know from Spider-Man? I never even watched the movies, but I know that Spider-Man says that with great power comes great responsibility. Now, I'm going to ask you this question. I really want you to think about this. Why is it that people hate dirty cops? Why do we hate a dirty cop? The reason why we despise a dirty cop is because that cop represents the power of the law and the responsibility to enforce the law. But when the officer is a lawless person, an officer is a person who does not respect the law. He is not to be respected. He is what we call a pig. So it's the same as that concept when it comes to husband-wife relationships. You can't just be walking around and wielding a big stick, talking about submit to me and listen to me and do what I tell you to do, when you are operating without honoring the responsibility that that word conveys onto you as husband. It is a responsibility that is as weighty as the power that was granted in the scriptures. And so one of the first things that your wife is too traumatized to tell you is that she does not see, witness, or experience evidence that you are operating in the power, love, and authority that her heavenly father gave you. You don't look like her daddy. This is what your wife is too traumatized to tell you. She's expecting for you to show up as a picture of who her daddy is, her heavenly father. And she may not have a complete grasp. She might see him through a warped lens because there's some healing that needs to take place. But deep down inside, she knows that there is a love, there is a tenderness, there is a taking care of that you should be a reflection of as her husband. And so what many wives who are walking through healing, who are walking through trauma, are unable to tell you respectfully, because she might cuss you out, she might scream and yell at you, but I'm telling you here tonight, civilly, this is what she's meaning. Because one of the things that I've heard so many times through my practice when I speak to my male clients, I've heard so many of my male clients say, man, Char, I wish my wife listened to me the way that you listen to me. I wish my wife talked to me the way that you talk to me. But I will often laugh at these brothers and say, listen, I could give you Dr. Selasi's phone number right now, and he will be the first to tell you that what you're experiencing with your wife I have taken him through this as well. I have been through this journey, and I'm going to go into a little more detail about that later. But men, I'm saying this to you this way to understand that what your wife is not telling you civilly, what she's not telling you with her words, is that she needs to see a reflection of her father, her heavenly father, through you, because he gave you the authority to look like him, move like him, and talk like him, and you haven't been doing that for her. Because she knows in her spirit that her father's desire for her is to heal. Her father's desire is to rescue her from this place where she's been stuck in her trauma. And her father's desire is to restore her to his original design for her. And so when you understand this and this connection to your authority as husband, and you begin to set your intention in this direction, that you are actually the messenger, you are actually the minister, you are actually the one who is the mirror image of her father when it comes to her need to heal from her trauma, it completely changes the game. And I'll mention this right here. I'll never forget the day that as I was walking through some of the darkest areas of my healing in my marriage, that I made this statement to my husband. I said to him, I said, listen, you're going to have to give an account to my daddy how you deal with me. And I remember the atmosphere shifting, because he heard me when I said that. He heard me having made the connection between me and my heavenly father. And he understood in that moment in time that I understood that my daddy don't play when it comes to me. And from that place, a lot of things change with respect to his respect for me, not just as his wife who's supposed to submit to him, but as the Most High's daughter, who is going to require an account of him, how he deals with his daughter. And this is what your wife wants you to understand about her and her relationship with the father. And so there is this law, the law of courage, that is the key to creating her safety, to supporting her in her healing and her deliverance. And you're going to hear me talk a lot about deliverance in this year to come, because deliverance, at the core of deliverance, is contract law. At the core of deliverance is things that you have agreed to. At the core of deliverance is breaking layers and layers and layers of contracts. I'm talking about books worth of contracts and agreements that have gotten people bound in places where they are bound. And we'll be talking about deliverance a whole lot more intentionally, but you have the authority to create the environment using this law as the first key. And that law of courage can be found in 1 John 4:18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear has torment. He that fears is not made perfect in love. And the reason why this law is so important for you as the one who has been made, did I skip the slides with the Hebrew words? I had the Hebrew up here, y'all. Maybe I skipped past it. I want to encourage you to do, yes, this one right here, Strong's H4910. Mashal, take a look at this word in a Bible study, and you will see exactly what was conferred upon you as husband when it comes to enforcing this law in your marriage, in your house, with your wife, with your kids, because fear has to be cast out. And you are the one with the authority to do it. But unfortunately, a lot of, and I'm probably getting ahead of myself right here. Unfortunately, a lot of times when we find ourselves confronted with someone who's responding out of their trauma, who's responding out of their hurt, we begin to protect ourselves. You become defensive. You turn to pride, and you turn to sarcasm, or you say things that hurt her, and those arrows just stick in her, and you don't recognize that you are responding to her out of a place of fear, and it is your authority to cast fear out. So this is the law governing, this is the key to navigating through these traumatized spaces with your wife, and to get her to a place where she is actually bearing good fruit and bringing good fruit to your life. So I want to talk about this. I found this post, husband 36 versus wife 37. And they were only married like 4 years when he's writing this. And he's like, everything was all good before, when we first started dating and while we were engaged, but then like after we got married, she was somebody else. Like, she has this uncontrollable rage, she's controlling, and she is always criticizing me and personally attacking me. And he is saying, hey, my issue, he's stating the issue as, how do I fix my wife? How do I help her with her mental illness? Because she, oddly enough, is a psychology major. She's trained in psychology, highly educated woman. He doesn't feel like she takes therapy seriously. And he knows that if they stay on this course of her anger, her control, her criticism, and just this toxic environment where he's feeling emotionally abused, he knows that their marriage is not going to make it. But I think he's looking at the wrong issue. He's looking at, how do I fix my wife? But my challenge here is, how do you get help? Okay, this was his question. How do I get help for my wife's mental health issues so that we don't end up in divorce? I'm saying that the correct issue in really dealing with the root problem is not her mental illness. How do you, as the husband, enforce the law of courage to cast out fear and create safety for your wife, where she will be healed and restored within the territory of your marriage? Husbands, please see your marriage as a garden. See it as a place where you're supposed to be growing some food, fruits, vegetables, herbs, roots. Your marriage is your territory, and you were given dominion over this territory to enforce the law of creation. And this law of creation says that love and fear cannot coexist. We often believe that the opposite of love is hate. But according to the Bible, the opposite of love is actually fear. So the issue here that I'm challenging you with, if you are dealing with a traumatized wife, she angry, she coming for you, she's attacking you, she's shutting down on you, she's already left the bedroom, she threatens divorce, all kind of, she cuts up on you. My challenge to you is, how do you cast fear out? Because you have a fear problem, and I'm going to show you how. So first of all, we need to understand that fear is evil. And the precedent for this is 2 Timothy 1:7. That reads, for the Most High has not given us a spirit of fear, but he has given us love, power, and a sound mind. So the gifts that we've been given by the Creator, the gifts that he intends for us to have and to operate in our homes, are love, power, and a sound mind. So where fear is present, we're not operating in love. Where fear is present, we are not operating in our power and our authority to cast it out. And where fear is present, it's playing mind games with everybody. So let's dive into this a little bit. One of the things that your wife is too traumatized to tell you is that, I'm afraid you are going to abandon me. This is one of the things that your wife is thinking when, husband 36 is here saying, hey, she's enraged with me, and I can't understand why she's always so angry. But what he needs to understand, and what you need to understand, if this is how your wife is dealing with you and talking to you and coming for you, understand that anger is a symptom of pain. If I could give one gift to marriages for 2025, it would be for husbands to understand that when your wife is angry, this is not coming from a place where she is motivated to attack you. This is coming from a place where she is releasing pain. So instead of seeing your wife as attacking you, see that she is in pain, and you resist the temptation to harden your heart in pride to defend yourself against her. Now, let me give a caveat here. I'm not giving a pass to disrespect. If your wife is off the chain cussing and going in with the crazy, look, you are within your right to say, hey, look, I'm not going to talk to you if we're gonna be cursing and yelling and screaming and slamming doors. Like, yeah, you can have some rules, some ground rules, and I'll talk a little bit about some mechanics of how to do that. So I'm not sitting up here telling you to take mess. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying, men, a lot of times you will become resentful, or you will shut down, or you will say things out of sarcasm because you feel attacked, because you don't discern that your wife is in pain. So oftentimes you come back at her with the same energy you will come to with another man. You don't see her as your woman in that moment. You see her as another man that you have to fight. And so this is a part where you have to exercise discipline over your spirit. The same exact word used concerning your authority and your jurisdiction as the governor of your wife is the same as that word used here in Proverbs 16:32, that says that being slow to anger is better than being mighty. And he that rules, that same word here, rules, govern your own spirit. Govern your own response, govern your own emotion. So, a lot of times we have husbands who want to be the governor over the wife before he's even first mastered how to govern his own spirit. Like, we as women, that's hard for us to respect, because if you lack self-control, but you want to control me, first of all, you're not supposed to control your wife. First of all, she has her own mind, her own will, her own emotions. You were not given authority to control your wife, but your responsibility is to govern the territory of your relationship, to be the governor and the manager over your marriage, but not to control her. And the first place where you need to exercise discipline and control is in your own spirit. That's actually the first place. And he who rules his own spirit is better than he who takes the city. So it's not about your strength. It's not about you being tough. It's not about anybody being scared of you. It's not about you dominating over your wife. It's about you exercising a kind of restraint, not to fall into the trap of interpreting her rage as motivated to attack. Because your traumatized wife she's like a volcano erupting to release pressure from a place inside of her that hurt so bad, the only thing left for her to do is get angry. She also wants you to know that she's afraid that she's not good enough. And so when we're looking at what husband 36 was saying about his wife, he has the authority to love her rather than to grow resentful towards her. Because again, he's interpreting her wounds as her attacking him. He's interpreting her wounds as her belittling him. He's interpreting her all wrong. He wants to say, hey, look, I know my wife is mentally ill. She need to go and fix that. But here, his love rather than fear, and not being afraid to love her through where she is showing up as a little kid. One of the key elements in this journey through marriage reconciliation in the community, through walking through deliverance and healing with other people, one of the biggest revelations that I gained in this process was the arrested development insight that's really talked about more in the book. And I'm going to put that in the description, the Art of Redirection. People become arrested at the place where they were traumatized, meaning their thinking, their emotion. You're looking at an adult female, you thinking she's 35 years old emotionally because she's 35 years old in her age. But if she was traumatized when she was 10 years old, then you're dealing with a 10-year-old child emotionally. And this is the understanding that you have the authority to operate in when you're dealing with your wife. Understanding that she is not emotionally her chronological age if she is still walking through healing. And this was a very, very painful revelation for me when I recognized this in myself. Like, oh my goodness, I'm 35 years old, but I'm 14 emotionally, and my husband is dealing with a whole 14-year-old because I was arrested at 14, where I gave birth to my baby in an ambulance alone after having a pregnancy for 9 months, for crying out loud. I was in a state of trauma. I had never matured beyond the age of 14, and I had kids, married, practicing law, and just as 14 years old as I wanted to be in my emotions. Rather than being afraid that she's going to leave you, rather than being afraid that the conversation is going to go wrong tonight, cast out that fear and show up in love and see your wife where she truly is in her arrested state. And perhaps you're arrested as well. Perhaps there's some emotional growth that you need to go through too. And maybe you might feel like, well, that's not fair, Char, because why do I have to be the one to cast out fear and show up in love? And she's showing out. Well, guess what? Again, Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. What you were bestowed, what the authority that was vested in you according to the scriptures, is a responsibility to her. It is a responsibility for her. And it is what it is. Like, women are supposed to just be okay with the fact that, okay, men have the final authority as the man. Why? Just because of your gender? No, it is a responsibility. There is a burden to that power. It's not just power for the sake of power. That power is balanced with your responsibility, and it should fall on you. A lot of women are resentful because they feel like when it comes to conflict in their marriage, the woman is the one that has to be the bigger person. And a lot of times we do put that heat. I know, women who work with me in the background will tell you I'm rough on the sisters when we sidebar in the background. I don't pull punches with wives when we work together. But I'm here to say, according to the biblical structure of how this thing is supposed to work, you're the one who's responsible to cast out fear. You're the one with authority to show up in love and recognize that your wife is arrested in her development. She is still at the place where she was traumatized. So whether she was traumatized as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, a 10-year-old, as a 16-year-old, as she was traumatized when she was 20 years old, you love her where she is and cast out fear. That's your authority. Another thing that your wife wants to tell you is that she gets overwhelmed trying to live as the person that everyone else thinks she's supposed to be. See, because one of the things when you're dealing with trauma, you're also dealing with a false persona that takes root in the place where you were hurt and ashamed and guilted. And until you walk through a healing journey, you're living your life based on what everybody else is expecting of you, because that shame and that guilt puts that pressure on you. It's one of the strongholds that attaches itself to a person who's a survivor of trauma. And so husband 36, he has the authority to enforce the truth. See, because she's sitting here, she's saying to herself, I got to do everything. I got to be everything. I got to go everywhere. I remember when I got the revelation after having my third child. Now, my third child is 17 years younger than his next brother. So my kids were spaced out quite a bit. And I remember finding out that other moms with kids my age was doing all this stuff on Pinterest and having all these Pinterest parties and stuff for their kids. And like I'm I'm carrying a full caseload. I'm traveling a lot back and forth to work and dropping my kiddo off to school. And I'm watching another mom in the office going through all kind of Pinterest hell for her kids' birthday parties. And I remember that day just looking at her and just being amazed at all of this amazing stuff that she did. And I announced that day that I might be a bad mom, but I had to call a timeout. I wasn't doing the Pinterest stuff. I wasn't doing the Pinterest birthday parties, the birthday cakes, all the little cute little all that extra. I didn't have the bandwidth for it. But a lot of times, your wife, if she's still navigating through trauma, she still is yielding to a lot of the social pressure to show up and perform. And so what you have to be aware of is that narrative that she's telling herself, you have the power to come in, and the Bible calls it wash her with the word of truth. Wash her with the word, not preach to her, but like tell her how awesome she is, because the conflict that she has within herself is what she's bringing into your relationship while there's no peace. The conflict that she hasn't resolved with herself, feeling like she's supposed to do and be and all this other kind of stuff, is what she's bringing. That's the stress that she's bringing into the relationship. And her fear of being rejected for not being what everybody else thinks she needs to be, her fear of being abandoned if she's not perfect for you or for everybody else, or her fear of just like she's not good enough because she hasn't faced her demons. Like that's real. And those fears are constantly lying to her. And she's always looking for evidence to justify or to confirm her bias of all these things that she's afraid of. So whenever you raise your voice at her, then you're just reinforcing to her that you're rejecting her. Whenever you shut down on her, you stonewall her, then you're reinforcing in her that you're planning on leaving her. You probably want to be with somebody else. Whenever you dismiss her when she's in the middle of expressing herself from a place of pain, and she wants to be understood, she just wants you to hear her, then you're reinforcing in her that she's not good enough for you to even listen to her. Like, I'm hoping that you see the connection here, because your wife is living in fear, you reacting in fear, and who is casting fear out of the house so that love can be perfected in your marriage. So this is, testimony time, because I want you to know exactly all the things that my husband did wrong. When I was like your wife, the same woman that husband 36 was complaining about, the same wife that you might be saying, look, she's always angry, she's controlling, she doesn't listen to me when I try to give her advice. I'm gonna tell you everything that my husband did to make things worse when I was just like your wife. I was just like her. So he used to disagree with my feelings. Like, I would come to my husband, I'd be like, I feel this way. And he would actually say, I disagree with that. We would actually get into arguments about him disagreeing with my feelings. I'm like, sir, you don't get to disagree with my feelings. I'm expressing my feelings. But he's like, no, I disagree with that because here are the facts. So he was definitely making things worse when he used to respond to me like that. He attempted to force my submission by silencing my disagreement. He was coming at me with the Christian mayonnaise style of submission. A wife's supposed to be submit. And whenever I would challenge something that he was saying, all of a sudden I'm not being submissive. And so he basically just wanted to silence me. Oh, why are you fighting me? Why are you fighting me? As though I don't have a right to my own opinion. Until eventually he silenced me to the point where I ain't had nothing else to say. I stopped talking. So he used to do that. He used to talk to me like I was a lawyer instead of his wife. And that was the other thing too about husband 36. He said his wife has a degree in psychology. She's highly educated. And this thing, when your wife is educated, or if your wife is has a higher degree, or she's in one of these male dominated professions, like, she don't stop being your wife because of the work that she does or because of her training. Like, I remember saying to my husband years ago, I'd be like, bruh, you're talking to me like I'm a man on the streets. Like, what's up? Like, why are you coming for me like this? Like, I'm your wife. He used to do that, y'all. He used to psychoanalyze me and then strongly recommend that I go get medicated because I was emotional and he wasn't understanding. He wasn't understanding why I was emotional. He wasn't agreeing with my feelings. He couldn't understand why I wouldn't submit. So he just finally was like, you just need to go see somebody and get on something. Like, he used to talk to me like that, y'all. He was making it worse. He gave me unsolicited advice and tried to fix my problems when all I wanted to do was I just wanted to talk. Like, and would get upset when he would hear me talking to everybody else, and he was like, well, you don't talk to me like you talk to everybody else. I'm like, yeah, because they don't give me unsolicited advice. They just listen. Sometimes I just want you to listen. This is your authority. Your authority is to listen to me when I just want to be heard. So that was making it worse. He used to get really condescending with that Bible, y'all. Oh my goodness. Whole sermon's preaching me down, telling me about the scriptures and Paul taught this and that. And I'm like, sir, we both have a relationship with the Most High. We both read the Bible. I'm not going to argue Bible. I'm never going to argue Bible. But why are you condescending me like, like I don't also have a relationship with these scriptures and with the Most High? I'm a praying person too. I read my Bible as well. Like, why are you condescending your spiritualness over me? So that was making things worse. He did not acknowledge or express appreciation for all the stuff that I was doing to keep the family going. Like, I was exhausted and overwhelmed. And he didn't seem to notice. Because again, all of that responsibility that was really in his authority, I was carrying. And beginning to really, 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 really not like him because of it. Because he wasn't stepping into his responsibility, the responsibility side of his authority. And I also want to share with you all the things my husband has done when I was like your wife, when I was just like her. I'll talk about just like her. And all of the things that he did that made things better. So he stopped suggesting solving our problems with separation. That was very, very early in our marriage. Prior to us having our son, we were married a couple of years before our son came along. And he was always kind of like, he wouldn't come out and say, oh, okay, we should get divorced. But he would say, like, maybe we just should live separately. Like, that was his answer. It used to have me on edge, y'all. It used to wreck my nerves. He stopped doing that. He eliminated that a long time ago. But he stopped doing that, which began to heal that place of fear of abandonment. He began focusing more on his walk with the Most High than trying to fix me. And this happened after I broke all the rules, because I was letting him know, you're not going to control me. You're not going to Bible thump me. You're not going to shame me with Paul's teachings or any of that. Look, I'm not scared of Paul. You can throw that Bible at me if you want to, but we're not going to do this anymore. You're not going to control me with your preaching and with your condescending. And so after I did the unthinkable and moved out of the bedroom to let him know that I would not be controlled or manipulated with the scriptures, he began to focus on his walk. And he began to do some serious soul searching, and he left me alone to do my own. And during that time, what my husband started to do, and what he still does to this day, he practices small acts of kindness and thoughtfulness. So that year I had moved out. I moved out of the bedroom and I moved into my office. He went on his soul searching and he went to go figure out, he went to go get some answers from the Most High, like I was doing in my office trying to get some answers from the Most High. And I started noticing on certain days of the week when I would come out of hiding, because we were avoiding each other anywhere where there was a common space, shared space. We had a time to perfection where I didn't have to see him, he didn't have to see me. And I came out of hiding when I knew he wasn't around, and he had flowers on the table for me. And I ain't like him, but I noticed the flowers and I respected it. I respected the effort. And that was 1 week, and then another week, and then another week. And for months, he was leaving flowers. He kept a bouquet of fresh flowers, even when we weren't speaking, even when we were separated inside the same house. He began these small little acts of kindness without his words to show me I'm not going anywhere. I'm here and I still love you, even though I don't like you either. And to this day, he continues to do these same little, and it's sometimes it's flowers, sometimes it's other little treats, but he consistently is mindful towards me with these small little acts and tokens and gifts of thoughtfulness and kindness. He disciplined himself to listen without giving me advice. And I remember when he first started doing this, I was so thankful because he would ask me, he was like, okay, do you want me to just listen? Or do you want me to give you advice? Or do you want to hear what I have to say about it? And more often than not, the fact that he asked me that, I invite his advice because he actually asked. But sometimes I would be like, no, I'm just venting and sharing my day. But the fact that he actually takes the time now, if I'm on a rant or I had a tough time, I'm going through something, I'm sharing it with him. He asks me first. He no longer gives me advice that I didn't ask for. And I share this with husbands all the time. I know you have the answer. I know you can help her see some things she's not seeing for herself. And I know you could probably quick, easy come in and fix this for her. But if she didn't ask for your advice, it's no. Please don't give your wife advice she didn't ask for. And he consistently respects the agreements that we built together and that we continue to build together. We do a lot of agreement work, y'all. And this is what began to create the safe space for him to now participate in my playfulness. I'm the playful person in our relationship. He's the serious one. I'm the one who always has jokes. He's not. And oftentimes he makes my jokes dry because he's so serious, he doesn't even realize I'm joking. I'm like, sir, can you not just be like disrespecting my jokes and not laughing at my jokes? Like that was a joke and you just answered it seriously. Like he's that person. But he now actively participates in my playfulness because he has created the environment that allowed me to stay put long enough to put roots down deep enough to begin to bear fruit of joy, fruit of healing, fruit of peace, fruit of love and kindness, of being able to talk to him without yelling and screaming and storming out, slamming the door, driving off. I used to do all of that to my husband. And this is the work. This is just some of the work he's done to use his authority to heal our environment so that I can be whole and that he can reap the benefit of that wholeness. And I found this note in my planner that I wrote several weeks ago, that the road to marriage is paved with divorce. Y'all, what this simply means is this: divorce your pride and plant the seed of humility. And seeing your wife's pain rather than treating her like she's a threat to you. Divorce your selfishness by investing more time to tighten up your walk with your Heavenly Father, rather than focusing your effort on trying to fix her or force her to deal with her stuff. or trying to make her into the woman that's going to submit to you and serve you perfectly according to how she should be made in your own image. But divorce yourself from selfishness and invest in that work. Divorce your fear. Because as the priest of your home, you are the one who's ultimately responsible for providing that canopy cover to protect her from the storms, to water her with the word of truth in spite of how things are looking right now. And do not get weary in well-doing. And that's why I share my story and I tell husbands, like, look, don't be looking at me like I'm a superstar, because I was your wife. I was your wife. I was the angry, broken, traumatized teenager masquerading as an adult and trying to figure out marriage. And that's why I'm warning you also, husband, do not send this video to your wife. I don't know when this trend began with people sending advice to their husband, to their wife through the little video they found, like trying to make suggestions. Please don't do that. Don't do that. That can go left real fast. Instead, you could pray for her. Instead, you could begin to exercise your authority according to the law of courage. You could recognize where you're afraid, where you're operating out of fear. And instead, you can start creating that safe space, that loving space, that supportive space. You could begin seeing her for who she really is, where she's arrested. And she doesn't even really have the words to explain this to you. When you're arrested, you don't even realize how to express yourself this way. Your wife's healing, that's her journey. It's not yours. And that's why it's not fair for you to take this video and send it to her like, oh, look, she was able to do it. You should do it too. No, please don't do that. Please don't do that. That's what the old folks call it, a setback. That's gonna create a setback. You can provide that environment, though. You can think about that environment. You can think about casting out fear. How do you need to cast out fear today? How do you need to deal with divorce and pride and selfishness? Because it's going to bring good fruit to you if you don't faint. In your season, you're going to get the fruit of peace. She might not be giving you peace now, but you would get lots of it if you would just allow her that space to grow her roots and take her journey that she needs to take with your covering, with your support, with your prayer, with your love, with your affirmation. Your marriage is your territory. This is your dominion. Providing the right conditions for this garden of your marriage to thrive. And the most important thing, why I'm even out here putting our business out here in the streets like this, is because you're not alone. This is me and my husband on our 10th anniversary, when we decided, you know what, we don't really have any plans for our anniversary this year. Let's go take pictures, because he does not like taking pictures. But he agreed, you know what, let's go ahead and take some pictures. And this was us at 10 years where I have finally taken divorce off the table. Like, I have finally got the revelation, like, nothing is going to get better in our relationship as long as I keep thinking that there is a plan B called divorce. And this is where the beauty really started taking place. This is where the roots of healing really began to grow deeper for both of us, because I had gotten a revelation and I was willing to stop being afraid. I'm gonna leave him before he can leave me, because those were the traumatic thought patterns that I had going on, right? Positioning myself to leave him. But he endured hell, y'all. I was Hurricane Char in this man's life. Now, I'm not gonna say he was not perfect. I already gave y'all a list of all his mess that he took me through. But I was Hurricane Char in this man's life, and he endured. And that is why I'm so thankful, like right now, that he is able to enjoy the multitude of peace that I bring into his life. The multitude of peace and laughter that we get to enjoy. Y'all, oh, funny story. So I forgot until I recently came across an old Facebook post that I had posted that I was sorrowful and heartbroken to have to announce that I was not married to a black man because my husband did not know the electric slide. It was so hurtful. That I revoked my husband's black card. I was like, sir, what do you mean? Like, this is something you're supposed to, you should have disclosed this to me when we were dating. You should not have waited until we were married and we already have a child together for you to tell me something as horrible as you don't know the electric slide. So I revoked his black card. Like, who does that? Like, you are not even black, sir. You are masquerading as black. It was painful. So so 2 weekends ago, I shared this with our son. I was like, I said, kiddo, I'm so sorry. I have to tell you the truth about your dad. He was like, Mommy, what is it? And Doc was there. He was sitting there when I was talking to our son. I said, your daddy, he not black. He not black because he don't know the electric slide. Y'all, my husband never was able to take jokes like that. He used to get so defensive and so stern faced and so stank. He would not take jokes like that, but he was tickled that I told our son that he wasn't black because he didn't know the electric slide. And do you know the next day, while I was dancing around the house acting the fool, he was like, "Hey, y'all, why you dancing? Come teach me electric slide." So I'm pleased to announce that Doc now knows the electric slide. I have restored his black card to him. He is back in the community, y'all. So Doc is back in the community. We have embraced him back. And he picked it up real quick, y'all. By the time we got to, like, we did the one whole revolution, he had it. He was getting a little cocky with it too. So my husband's black now. Time, laughter, patience, endurance. These are all the ingredients for healing, especially trauma. I play as much as I play in my work because I had to reconnect with the little girl that was traumatized, and I had to embrace her, and I had to not be ashamed of her. And bringing that lost childhood into my adulthood has served my marriage and so many other marriages from, just the pit of hell. Like, laughter does the heart good like a medicine. So I'm here, y'all, for us. If it's any questions, because y'all know I struggle with the chats. Any questions about the law, about the teaching? Yeah, taking pictures on our anniversary was very fun. Oh, thank you, Mr. Gregory. Brother Ed, you cold-blooded? Brother Garth, what's Galatians 6 and 9? Let me look it up real quick. Brother Garth dropped Galatians 6 and 9. Let me see what it is. Y'all know, I know what the scriptures say. One quick note about law school. One of my biggest fears about going into law school is that I thought I was going to have to memorize statutes and case names and case numbers, but that's not the case. And let us not be weary in well doing, for in due season we shall reap, if this is a conditional promise. If we faint not, we will reap. That was a good one, Brother Garth. Thank you for that. So yeah, law school wasn't about remembering the names of cases, remembering statutes or anything. It was about remembering the principle or recognizing the principle. You don't even have to know the law word for word, like how a lot of times we quote scripture word for word as though knowing it word for word is what the power is in the word. The power is in the principle, the legal operation that's encoded in the law. So oftentimes I'll say I know I'm on the right street, but I don't know the house address. So I don't always remember scriptures by their address. No questions, y'all? Because I realized the past couple of weeks I've been hopping off right after the teaching, and I'm like, you know what? Take the time to see, did this make sense, or did you want to hop into a little argument? A husband has to be diplomatically persuasive. I like this. I like this, brother Asaph, and I like that. I like that. I think that's a good nugget of wisdom. Diplomatically persuasive. What do you say here? Oh, I'd love to talk about submission with your wife. Hello, hello. I'd love for you to connect with me, brother Asaph. Support at lawforlove.com. Let's make that happen. I would love to hear it. Because I got a problem with the mayonnaise. When I talk about mayonnaise, I talk about the colonization of the scriptures, those things that were intentionally put into the scriptures for the sake of keeping us as an oppressed population, right? Twisting the scriptures to suit ideals of patriarchy and misogyny that are not biblical, that are not based on truth, that are not based on the love, the heart, and the intention of the Most High. So when I say mayonnaise, that's what I'm talking about. So I'd love to hear what your Ashanti wife says about it. And if no one has questions for me tonight, y'all quiet up in this Pentecostal church. I'm going to go ahead and just bless you. Thank you always for supporting the channel. And I look forward to serving you real soon. Be blessed. Always remember this: the destination is love, and the journey is love. And it is love that conquers all fear and transforms our world. Hey, if you were blessed by this content, please like it, share it, and subscribe. Follow us on social media at Law4Love ATL. And we bless you and thank you for all of your support.